It's Zach Eady with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back and better than ever. This is Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me, as always, is my guys, Craig Bowers, Joe Jackson, and Aiden Kuntz. We're doing a Big Ten tournament preview to preview what we should see from our guys that just won the Big Ten regular season championship over the last week. They won the share, then they won the outright, then they had the celebration at Mackey Arena on Sunday, and what a scene it was. Confetti popping, nets getting cut down, Gene Katie holding the trophy. We were certainly having a fun time in West Lafayette. So a big show here today. We're going to talk a lot about some of the awards that were given out. Some deserved, maybe some not. We're going to have Rapheal Davis, former Boilermaker and current Big Ten Network Analyst here coming on. He's going to be working hard all week long covering the Big Ten tournament. So a lot to cover here today. So what's up, gentlemen? How we doing, Craig?
I'm doing great, man. Looking forward to talking to Rapheal and talking to Bobby and hearing some of their thoughts about some of the awards that were given out. I thought just looking at those quickly, pretty much on par for what I thought would happen. There's one in there that maybe was a little bit of a surprise, but maybe not as the season wrapped up down the end. So looking forward to hearing their thoughts a little bit about that and talking about the Big Ten tournament as we celebrate number 25.
Number 25. So, Joe, Aiden, start with you, Joe, but, what are your thoughts as we head into a big week for Big Ten basketball? When you talk about Northwestern clinching up the 2 seed Sunday night, if they had lost, they'd have been the 9 seed. So that just goes to show you just how closely, even these teams are in the Big Ten. Purdue obviously wins with a 3-game lead, but the rest of the Big Ten is just neck and neck.
Yeah, it's that's just what the Big Ten is this year. It's just in the middle is such a mess. Really, anybody I could see going on a couple game win streak, maybe excluding Minnesota, but even them, they've at least looked better as of late. It's going to be a lot of fun matchups. You have second round is Michigan Rutgers, and those are both 2 teams legitimately playing for their postseason lives. So, and I think I froze on the screen for some reason, but
that's okay. It'll unfreeze. It'll unfreeze. If not, you'll just have this goofy looking face that you've got on the screen. I don't know. Maybe jump in, jump out. I don't know. We'll figure we'll figure it out, Joe. No worries. Aiden, how we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I this is one of those weeks where, I get to fire up the YouTube TV and watch during class, watch basketball at noon, at 11 a.m., whatever the case may be. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping Purdue can have a good showing, and I don't really know how much these conference tournaments matter to March success. Went back the last 10 years and looked at the Big Ten tournament champion and how they fared in March. And it's kind of all over the place. So I don't, one of the things I've been thinking about is like, how well do we want our Boilers to do? Do we want them to win it all? I'm sure we do. But at the same time, I don't think this is something where Coach Paint will be overly upset if they bow out on Saturday or even Friday or Sunday. And obviously we have the 1 seed at stake, so that changes things a little bit. But it is interesting.
Yeah, he has said in some of these post-game pressers, like, yeah, if you're trying to, win a few games or win the whole thing to get in the tournament, it's a huge point of emphasis to win games. But because you're already in, it's not to say they're not trying to, lose or anything like that, but it's not, the end-all be-all. So I have a feeling if they're in a tight game and learning lessons are needed to be had, he's just gonna let them play out, and maybe not overcoach the moment. So Joe's back with his internet. We've got plenty to talk about tonight. Joining the show now is our guy Rapheal Davis, joining for the second time this season. How you doing, Rafe?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Doing good. We hear you. We can't see you. I don't know if you're gonna come on as far as camera. If not, it's no big deal at all.
My camera is on my end. I'm not sure. I can log in and log back out if you want me to.
Yeah, it says something about please start ManyCam. I don't know. Maybe we try it one time if you don't mind. And if not, I don't.
All right, hold on. I'll be right back then. Be a second.
Yeah, I apologize. Thank you for trying. So we'll see what happens.
We're off to a great start, technically.
Yeah, it's no big deal if not. We are available on audio platforms, and being able to hear his words of wisdom is definitely all we need. But be cool to be able to see his beautiful smiling face. But Joe and Aiden, when we started to cross paths, last year I think we were following each other, but didn't completely know each other, right? Mm-hmm. And when this season started, I hopped into one of your spaces and I was just blown away by both of your knowledge of the entire Big Ten. I mean, you guys are naming back end of the benches for, teams that it takes me 2 months into the season to really get to know. And that was kind of where you started to come on my radar as far as somebody I thought like, hey, we really need to start to work with these guys. And I'm glad we did, because this show has really, I think, separated from the pack as far as what we bring to the table. Craig obviously has a lot of experience and knowledge and passion for this team, and you two bringing your analytical and X's and O's perspective, I just think was so vital to what we're doing here on these shows and the post-game shows. And I know how much you guys follow the entire Big Ten. So I'm excited to hear your guys' perspective along with Rafe's. And then, yes, as Craig said, Bobby Riddell, our guy, is going to be joining us here after Rafe. He's on the treadmill or something right now, I think is what he said. So he's going to join us after to kind of give some of the lens from a Purdue standpoint, and we'll try to keep it Big Ten centric with Rafe, obviously him also being a former Boilermaker. We want to hear his perspective. So a lot to cover here tonight. Like I was saying before Rafe comes on, just a lot of really cool moments overall watching this team win the Big Ten championship and then celebrate it, rightfully so, at Mackey Arena. Wasn't really 100% sure how they were going to celebrate it, and celebrate it indeed they did. There's Zach Edey. Some pretty epic pictures. This was pretty cool seeing a kid looking literally and figuratively looking up to Zach Edey. If you go on Boiler Diehards Facebook group that Craig is, the founder and administrator of, over 10,000 Purdue fans. I shared a post to that group with over 80 pictures that you're seeing right here. I know a lot of people really appreciated that, iconic pictures like this with Gene Katie. So, these are just some of the pictures and images you can see on there as well. So I just wanted to share them along one more time before we, get into some of these interviews of the day. So that's it. Just wanted to kind of share this stuff along. That's 2 Braden Smiths, but there it is. How's that one? How you guys like
Big
that?
Ten champion brags right there.
Yeah, I still don't know how you pulled that off. Hey, I'm just glad I'm not the one having technical difficulty trouble this time.
No, we're good. So, hey, Rafe, thanks for joining the show. How are you today? Uh-oh, now he's... We'll get it.
Oh yeah.
Now we can see you now, and now we can't hear you. I think he's getting his earbuds in.
He's taking them out, I think.
Okay. What's up, Rafe? How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear and see you loud and clear. Appreciate you working through that for us.
All right, my bad, man. I don't know what's going on. I can't hear you. All right, there we go. I can hear you now.
You can hear us now?
Yeah.
Hey, this is what happens sometimes with Wi-Fi. It's all good. We'll get it figured out, and once we do, we'll get some thoughts from Rafe. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. I don't know. What do you think, guys?
You're good.
Maybe message him, Craig, and tell him try one more time. It's all good. This is what happens sometimes. You got Wi-Fi and things of that issue to work through, but we promise we're going to effort it as much as we can. And there he is, Rapheal Davis. Appreciate you trying as hard as you can to make it work for us. We apologize for the inconvenience.
My bad. I guess we could just roll with this until I can figure out the camera situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely okay. Just thought we'd give it a try, but we, again, appreciate you trying for us. No big deal at all. This show is also available on audio platforms, so we'll do what we got to do. But so Rafe, you're obviously a former Boilermaker, watching the Purdue Boilermakers win their 25th Big Ten championship. For you, how did that make you feel as somebody that was, has been a part of this program and part of Matt Painter's legacy and watching Matt Painter kind of build this thing from the ground up?
Oh, no, it was cool. I'm one of those guys that was there watching fans walk out of Mac during Travis Carroll's speech. And I was in high school. I committed, I think in 2000 committed. So I got to go to Etwan Kramer's senior night. And those are moments that make you want to go after guys go out on that note. And then you get fans are leaving during Travis's senior during Northwestern. We're last place in the league, and that never set off since then. It's been amazing because that's now since three Big Ten championships. They should have three-peated. So it's been
Yes, sir. Hate to do this to you one more time, Rafe, but your voice is lagging behind the video, and your what you're saying is very slow. And I'm trying. I wasn't gonna say a word, but it's pretty rough. I'm just trying to think of what we can. It's almost like are you in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
Okay,
now the voice is fine. Yeah.
All right, now the voice is fine. We are going to move on. Thank you, Rafe. I apologize profusely. We appreciate your efforts and coming on our show 2 times this year. It certainly means a lot. I'm going to throw it to Craig. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, hey, I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you remember the last time you came on, my son jumped in the chat and was blowing some smoke about Connor Essegian making the all-freshman team. And at the time, you and I both were like, nah, that can't happen. And then Essegian ended up making the all-freshman team. As you look at some of the awards today, whether it's Lawyer being left off or Coach Painter not being Coach of the Year in the Big Ten. Was there anything that kind of jumped out and shocked or surprised you in those Big Ten awards?
I mean, Connor didn't surprise me at all, especially when you look at the last, I think, 6 games. Fletcher's the last 6 games, I want to say 6 or 7 games. Fletcher's averaged 7, and he's been 4 for 20 from 3 the last 4 games. It's been around 26% from the field. I mean, that's and it's not as though he was left off. It's just Connor became a really good player towards the end of the season. I mean, he really picked it up at the end of Big Ten season. He turned into Wisconsin's go-to guy. He was you look at the game against Rutgers, they ran game-winning plays for him, and he hadn't even made a field goal in that game, and they still ran it for him. So when you turn into that guy for a team as a freshman, especially when you're competing to play for a tournament, it helps you. And then it didn't help Fletcher that he just didn't make shots toward the end of the season, and also Purdue started to lose. So he still had a great year, and I think this year is one of the better freshman classes from top to bottom that the Big Ten has had in a while. Especially if you look at Minnesota, you look at Pharrell Payne, and you look at Ola Joseph and those dudes. They really good players. Kevin Jai is going to be a good player. Akpara and Bruce Thornton. Even if Sensabaugh leaves, Roddy Gale's going to be a good player. I mean, the list goes on and on. Derek Simpson. I mean, everybody has pretty good freshmen. Jaden Epps and those dudes. Ty Rogers is here. So it's just a competitive freshman group. But I guess if I'm looking at it, the thing that stands out to me was Boo Buie. Boo Buie being left off of the coaches' Big Ten first team. I thought he should have been okay. Well, I'm stop first. I want to know who didn't vote Chris Murray unanimous from the coaches, because that blew my mind. Whoever didn't vote a guy that's averaging 20 and 9 or whatever,
right?
His team. But then Boo Buie, because if you look at Northwestern's conference play or even the season, it was just the ebbs and flows of Chase Audees, but Boo Buie was pretty consistent. He when they needed baskets, when things got tough, Boo got scary. So, like, when they needed baskets, it was just he always came through in the clutch, in a sense. And you look at Big Ten play, he went up. On the season, he averaged 17. In Big Ten play, he averaged 19. And then also, he beat the top 4 teams in the league. He beat them all. He beat Purdue. He beat Indiana. He beat all 4 of the top 4 teams. He even beat Illinois. So, I think that hurts. And then we look at Terrence Shannon. Great player, does a lot for his team, but he was averaging 17 for the season as well. Big Ten numbers dropped to 16, and then Matt Meyer really stepped up his game. And Matt Meyer averaging 15 points in conference play, whatever. So I think when Northwestern really needed wins, Chase Audees, his offensive game really dipped a little bit, and Boo Buie carried the load. I think Boo was the one that stood out. I know
Rafe,
that
I guess the other elephant in the room that, is just so disappointing to see. All due respect to Chris Collins and the job he did, because I think he did an incredible job, and he deserves a contract extension for what he's done at Northwestern this year, taking them to their second tournament appearance and finishing second in the Big Ten. But for Matt Painter to not get Big Ten Coach of the Year, the first coach ever to have a 3-game lead to finish the Big Ten. There's been 7 teams to ever have a 3-game lead to win the Big Ten, and he is the only coach to not win Big Ten Coach of the Year under those circumstances. Losing a lottery pick in Jaden Ivey, losing key contributors in Travion Williams, Sasha Stefanovic, Isaiah Thompson, and Eric Hunter, a large percentage of their output. How does Matt Painter not win Big Ten Coach of the Year this year?
I think if Northwestern loses that game against Rutgers, they finish 9th in the league, and then
correct.
I think maybe coach gets it, but I think I would be a hypocrite if I go back to my junior year. I always go back. I'm a guy that likes to live in the past, I guess. But I go back to my junior year, and we were projected, I think, 11th or 10th, and we finished 3rd in the league, got a double bye. We made it back to the NCAA tournament, yada, yada. Coach Painter didn't win Big Ten Coach of the Year. Coach Gard did, I think Wisconsin. Somebody won with Coach of the Year or whatever. But they were projected. They were really good, projected to be that good. They just came back off of a Final Four. And I was really upset. I've been upset since that coach didn't win that player. You see, I folded my arms. Coach didn't win that Player of the Year award. But I think so. I can't be upset at Coach Collins winning the award when they were projected 13th and they finished second. I think but if I'm being objective about it, I understand because it's really, really, really hard to go from that place in the Big Ten at the bottom of the league and jump over so many good teams. So the story fit the storyline, and he got his. He also lost the. He lost a couple. Purdue lost a lot of good guys, 100%. But he also had a lot of good guys behind those guys. So I mean, like, Zach's a really good player. We knew that. We always known how good Brandon Newman was. Ethan's always been a good player. But when you look past Pete Nance and Ryan Young leaving, you had two good guards, and there was a question mark everywhere else. And those two guards, no one in the coach, out of the coaches, the media, whatever, would say they trusted those guards going into the league play at the end of a game. So I think a lot of things worked out for Coach, but I wanted Coach Painter to win the award when I was in a position, so I could understand why Coach Collins won.
Yes, sir. Joe, you're up.
Yeah, I've watched pretty much every Big Ten game this year. Ton of Big Ten basketball, and so I was just wondering who are your favorite guys to watch? And you can't say like Edie and Trace and that. Maybe I don't want to necessarily just say sleepers, but like just guys you're like, man, I just got to watch them play.
Well, no, those not even my favorites. So like,
there you go.
I was gonna say those guys anyway. My favorite player in the league is Jalen Pickett. I don't know if you can see the like back and forth, whatever. Like that's my guy. Like I like Pick a lot, and then I like to watch Sensabaugh play. He makes the game look easy on the offensive end. My favorite player to watch is really Caitlin Clark. I mean, Caitlin Clark is absolutely amazing. Like the game is so slow to her, and it's so fast to everybody else, and that's crazy. But I'm assuming you're talking about just on the men's side. But then,
hey, I'm cool with that.
Angel Reese is a dog too, like the way she. Anyway, but I like. I like Jameer Young because if you look at Jameer Young, he's another guy that could have been first team. I think if I was to choose between Jameer Young or Hunter Dickinson to make my first team, I would choose Jameer Young because Maryland been a top 25 team this year. They're going to go to the tournament. They won close games. I know they struggled away from home, but he didn't struggle. And when you look at when Jameer Young went up against top competition at his position in the league, he won those individual battles. He outplayed Hushafino. He outplayed Braden Smith. He outplayed Bowie. He outplayed Pickett. He outplayed Greasel, all of the guards at his position, the guards from Michigan State. So I think he's another guy. I just really like his competitive edge. He has that little man syndrome, that Lewis Jackson vibe. And then I won't be remiss if I didn't say I like watching Boo Bowie play, but then the way Chase Aldridge and Caleb McConnell, I'm glad they got to split the award because both of those guys deserve it. McConnell has a little more help on the defensive end with Cliff and Paul and those dudes. And then Chase, the way he can defend on the island and get into guys. So those are a few of my guys I like to tune into. And then Seth Lundy, I really enjoy. I like watching Seth Lundy a lot too. I think Seth Lundy is one of the more improved players in the Big Ten. I mean, he was a guy that big, drove the ball a lot. Now he's one of the better three-point shooters in the country. So those are kind of the guys I look at.
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, Ray, I was going to ask you about Painter switching to Brandon Newman, switching Ethan Morton and Brandon Newman in the starting lineup. It seems like Newman is maybe a little bit more aggressive on the ball, can take in a way that Ethan Morton's a good defender, but he kind of plays you straight up, whereas Newman's going to go get into you, going to pick you up full court a lot of the time. What do you think about that switch? Do you think that changes Purdue's outlook? Do you think it makes him a little more scary? Do you think it makes him kind of tougher to play? Or what do you think about the move that Painter made over the weekend or starting with Wisconsin?
I think it makes him more athletic. I mean, I love Ethan, and I think He's a big physical defender. He takes on a challenge and he plays as hard as he can and he wants to get the job done. But sometimes when you're playing more athletic wings or more athletic guards, you need a more athletic defender. And it's the same when I had John Noctius. John Noctius would guard the more athletic guys. So you know what I mean? So if it's a guy like to run off of screens, if a guys that I can guard in the post, I would guard those players. But if it was a guy that had the ball in his hands, he was dribbling a lot or whatever in space, John Noctius would take that matchup. So I think Newman brings athleticism on both ends too, because when you're struggling from three, like Fletcher has been or the guys have been, someone has to be able to get to the basket. And Braden has the wiggle to be able to get there, the wiggle off the dribble. So I think that helps him a lot. It opens things up. It can spread the floor. It helps him run in transition. And I think Braden likes to run in transition. He gets the ball. The play that stands out to me, Caleb gets a block. Braden gets the ball. We push. Newman gets a layup. And I think you can see a lot of that because in the tournament in March, in the tournament in March, guards win you games, and you got to be able to defend. You got to be able to keep the ball in front of you. You got to be able to defend at a high level, and I think Brandon can do that. And he's at the point where he's learned angles. He's learned how to defend. His size and his length is helping him.
Yeah, he's been an incredible story. I mean, last year he came on hot in the Big Ten tournament, but he hadn't played all year.
Right.
This year he's had a role on the team where he's gotten minutes. It's not like he's not playing, but again, he doesn't get in the starting lineup, doesn't get any kind of big minutes. Now all of a sudden he led the team in minutes on Sunday with 34 minutes, and he led the team in points with 19 points. I mean, as somebody just said in the chat, he has been the spark plug to this team. Like, how much do you think that's going to help? Because even though Illinois came back in the second half, I felt like that was the loosest I've seen Purdue play in weeks. Like, how much do you think that shot in the arm for Brandon and the team now all of a sudden kind of opens things up? Because Morton played well down the stretch. Fletcher Lawyer, obviously needs to get out of his slump, but I think this move for Brandon keeps him on his toes as well. How much do you think that move is going to help open up what they're capable of in March? Because I think everybody was concerned if they face a team that has good guard play, physical guard play, that they were going to have some problems. But now you have Brandon in the fold leading the team in minutes. How much could that help them in March Madness?
Like I said, I try to be as objective as I can. They're still going to have problems with guards in March. Because, it's not as if Ethan is a really good defender, but you see Ethan guard one player and then another, like Michigan, for example. Ethan may guard, and this is just not exactly what happened. I'm just saying what could happen. If it was Ethan. Ethan would guard Jet Howard. The next Kobe Buff can get going. Ethan would switch. Next Doug McDaniel get going. Ethan would switch. So Ethan pretty much guards all the perimeter guys. So it's a thing where Brandon's going to take the responsibility of guarding the best guard, and then Fletcher's still going to have to guard the second guard. So,
right.
You know what I mean? It's still – it doesn't matter who's in. You look at – I go to the Maryland game, and I love Fletcher. That's my guy. He's from Fort Wayne, whatever. But they just took turns. Whoever he was guarding, they found him. And at this level, it doesn't matter if it's just Brandon. If you just have one defender out there, it's not – college coaches are going to be able to find that matchup however, it's about cat and mouse or whatever. But I think it's going to help him. I think it's definitely going to help him with just a guy that wants to be aggressive outside of just Zach Edey, because he's not dependent on just throwing the ball in. He's a guy that could break the offense when the shot clock gets going down. But I think it helps him in a lot of ways, and just also having a guy that can make tough shots off the dribble in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, as we go into the Big Ten tourney, who do you think's the favorite, and who do you think's the dark horse? Your dark horse to maybe pull an unexpected run in the Big Ten tourney.
I got two dark horses, and they are Ohio State and Nebraska. Because Ohio State, their record. You look at Ohio State, took a buzzer beater for Purdue. You look at Purdue won the league. Ohio State feels like they should have won that game. So, they're not necessarily going to be afraid of competition. They're actually, it doesn't say much, but they're playing their best basketball right now. Guys are figuring it out. Bruce Thornton averaged 17 a game the last 4 games, or 54% from the field. So the game is starting to slow down, and you see what happened when the game slowed down for Hood-Schifino. And if guys are hooked up, Bryce Thornton could get you. Bryce Sensabaugh is probably the best freshman in the league, the best scorer, one of the better scorers in the league. So if he gets hot, Justice Suing is a big physical guard. And I mean, Akpar is another player that's figured it out as the season got longer. He's no longer just jumps at shots. He can block. He's now a valuable shot blocker. So that would be, if they were to make a run, I mean, it would be crazy, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if they were to win a few games. I mean, I finished last place in this league, and we won our first game in the tournament. And then Tyrone Johnson had a shot to beat Ohio State, or at least to tie it for 3, and we just missed it. It just rimmed out. So, I mean, that would have been crazy. So, and then Nebraska, I don't see my Nebraska. It's one of the things where I just don't understand. I mean, if you look at, I don't know if you guys have it in front of you, but if you look at Nebraska's resume, their quad, they can have 4 quad 1 wins. I mean, their quad 3 and 4 record is really, really good. They have a road win against Creighton, and their worst loss is at St. John's, which isn't too crazy. They may have lost at double figures at Maryland, but then they beat Maryland at home. So if you look at I know they're 16 and 15, and Wisconsin is 17 and 13, whatever. But if they were to win a couple games, they could be on the bubble. They could be right there. If Nebraska was to win a couple, and then Michigan goes out and loses to Rutgers, or then Penn State loses their first game, and then Wisconsin loses their first game. I mean, because it kind of seems like the Big Ten is the bubble. So if those 2 teams were to make a run, I wouldn't be surprised. I'll be pretty happy for them. But I think the favorite is Purdue. I mean, you win the Big Ten by 3 games. I mean, you got the Player of the Year. You got honorable mention guys. I mean, I think Purdue is definitely the favorite. I think they got to go out there and try to win one. I mean, they're playing for a number 1 seed, and the number 1 seed matters. And it's not one of those things that you go out there and you say, oh, it's a Big Ten tournament. Let's just go hoop, and if we lose, we lose. No, like it hurts losing in the Big Ten tournament on the championship, and then you got to go into the locker room and watch Selection Sunday after you just lost, and you can hear Michigan State celebrating on the court with the confetti on them. Like that hurts. Like that doesn't. Like we could say we won as fans, but that shit doesn't feel good.
No, you're better off not getting there if you're going to lose in the championship.
Well, no, you're just better off just winning. You're just better off.
Yeah, that'd be first and foremost. But I do think Purdue and IU could potentially be in a crash course for the championship game, because when you look at it, they both got pretty decent draws. Not to say that either can get upended. They certainly can. Michigan is no pushover if they get through Rutgers, who've been struggling as of late. But I just feel like Purdue and Indiana, it is set up for them if they want to meet for a third time this year. But very rarely do we have 2 former Boilers on our show. And Bobby Riddell is backstage, and I don't want to be rude. I don't know if he's like in a keyhole or what are you doing? Like, yeah, I know you're a little guy, Bobby, but like, where are you?
I'm guessing my camera's jacked up.
Everybody's cameras. There you go. So I'm going to let Bobby ask the next question. I'm going to put all us fans in the stands backstage. I'm going to let Bobby ask Rafe a question. 2 former Boilers here on Boilers in the Stands, and then we'll cut Rafe loose here soon because I want him to get rest before this big week of coverage for him.
All right. Well, I apologize. I haven't been watching the whole podcast thus far, so I certainly may ask Rapheal something that you guys have already asked. But
I'll tell you if you do. All
right. Have you guys already asked Rapheal about just like Purdue's defensive effort and improvement lately with Brandon in the lineup?
No, that's why you're a pro, Bobby. Fire away.
It's just a beautiful thing. What, that added element now of having a second guy along with, Ethan Morton, now that Brandon's really established himself as of late as like a second guy on the perimeter that's really making plays, creating turnovers, just making another offensive player feel uncomfortable. It's something, of course, you did a lot when you were playing defense. What's that added element do for Purdue defensively?
I think it helps them a lot. I think especially when they're on the court together. I think when they're on the court together, it's going to really help them. I don't know how many. It just depends on how well they're shooting the ball, too, how much you're going to find them on the court together. Because if Brandon can add the shooting aspect and offensively fit in that continuity of how they want to play, and then Ethan is aggressive, he's making shots, together on the court, I think it could help. Because you put Ethan on a guy that likes to run off of screens, or a guy that likes to play in a half-court setting without the ball, and then you put Brandon on the guy with the ball in his hands, coming off of ball screens, that likes to play off the bounce and the jumpers or whatever. I think that could really help him, because you look at a team like Maryland, like I was just telling the guys, they just kind of found whoever that second guard was. I mean, they picked on Fletcher a bunch, they picked on Braden a bunch. So when you have two of them out there, like I was saying, it reminds me of me and John Noctis. Like I could guard a guy like a Brent Forbes or Denzel Valentine, and maybe John Noctis guard Travis Trice. Or I guard Andre Hollins, John Noctis guard Austin Hollins. So it's a thing where it really, really helps you defensively if you have two, because then you can hide someone. Then you can put, you know what I mean? You can put someone on that third, fourth guy, and it gives them more athleticism too to turn more defensive stops into offense. So they get those rebounds. Brandon likes to run. He likes to shoot those transition threes. He can go finish at the rim, and we know that a transition dunk is different from a transition layup. Or if you're going up, you got a guy going up to dunk on somebody, sometimes you need some energy, you get the crowd into it, you know what I mean? So I think it gives him a lot, and it also makes Brandon feel a little better about himself. And a lot of people haven't watched Brandon a lot individually, but he's a special talent on the offensive end. And if he can figure it out in between the ears, this could make for a really good run.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Joe. Just a couple more here for Rafe. I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've come on our show twice this season. I also want to remind people, I saw you posting earlier, if you visit RaphealDavisBasketball.com, you got spring break basketball camps coming up. I think you said you had 50 spots available still, right, Rafe?
Yep, we having our spring break basketball camp at OPS in Fort Wayne on DuPont Road, April 4th and 5th. First through eighth graders, the first through fourth graders are going to go first, or 9 to 11:30. Then the older kids come in from 12 to 3, and we get lunch, and we're giving out basketballs, because you'd be surprised how many kids don't have basketball. So we're going to do a lot of good stuff. And then we have 50 free scholarships. So if you want to come to camp, but you can't afford it, or if you've never been to camp and you want to try it out, you can just go on our website. You can sign up. And then if you want to sponsor camp and be a part of it, have your business a part, or your family a part, or you want to have a special cause, you can reach out to me through DM, email, what have you.
Yeah, sounds good. And we'll do our part to promote that as much as we can as you lead up to that. Aiden, Joe, just two more. Aiden, why don't you fire away, and then we'll start to cut Rapheal loose.
Yeah, I was going to ask Ray, today watching Big Ten Network, they got you guys outside. How cold is that, man? It looks pretty crazy. It's a great view. It's a great view for the people, but it looks like it's pretty rough for you.
Yeah, today was freezing, man. Today was one of those days where I was just happy. I get to talk about basketball for a living. And it's one of the things where if that was the hardest thing I have to go through all week, like I'm living pretty good. So it was definitely freezing. It was windy. Like it was the windy city today. Like it was, I know I probably stuttered a few times or forgot a thought, but it was pretty cool. But it was a cool experience. It was definitely a pretty view.
You guys got a beautiful backdrop.
Yeah, it looked real cool. It turned out really well. It was a great idea, but it was even yesterday it was sunny out, and then during one of the segments, we looked at our phone and it dropped 20 degrees. So it happens. It happens in Chicago. We're not too far from the lake.
Okay, then we got one more. Joe, you want to fire away on this one?
Yes. Yeah. Hold on real quick. I see a question. Yeah, I could definitely lock up Pickett. One thing Jalen Pickett benefits from is the rule change. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but my senior year in college, they took the 5-second count out of college basketball, where they only count 5 seconds if you're holding the basketball. But if you're dribbling, you're not going to see a ref doing the count anymore if you're dribbling. So when I played, I remember getting a 5-second count on Karis LeVert. He was dribbling, I got a 5-second count. Jalen Pickett benefits from that rule. He can just dribble the air off the ball. But
I say all that to say I'm locking that up. I don't even want to get there. Like he got grown man strength, and I got grown man strength. Like I had dad strength in college. I had already had my daughter. Like we all like you got that dad strength that helps you. So I'm locking that up. My bad, but you could ask me a question now.
No, that's what it was. So
no, yeah, we wanted to know if you could lock up Pickett.
And that's another thing with Jalen Pickett too. That's another thing that I figured him out, man. I watch a lot of film. Sometimes he posts or he drives. He's looking to pass it, and sometimes he's just waiting for you to come double. You send that double, he's gonna kill you. But come on, man. Man. Come on, man. I'm locking that up.
I love the competitiveness. Rapheal, like I said, you've come on this show now 2 times this year. So you're in second place behind Bobby. I guess the check is going to be in the mail. We're going to have to owe you for some of these, but we really appreciate it. We've been seeing you pop in a few times to some of our chats, and we appreciate the support, man. We're grinding away. This thing is kind of taken off this year. A lot of Boilers fans starting to find us, and guys like you willing to come on and give your time is a big part of the reason why. So we really appreciate it. And like I said, we're going to do everything we can to promote what you're trying to do, outside of basketball and try to give back in that way. So thanks again.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Looking forward to a great week for the Boilers. I hope they can win at the beginning of the year. We set goals. You win your Thanksgiving tournament. You win the Big Ten. You win the Big Ten tournament. You go to a Final Four. You win a national championship in that order. And They checking them off right now, and it's the thing where it's really fun to have been a part of this, and I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah, hey, they checked one box and a pretty big one, winning a Big Ten regular season championship, and that's pretty big when you consider 2 freshmen in the starting lineup. So Craig and I will be there. Bobby will too. Obviously, Craig and I are fully credentialed for the Big Ten tournament, so. We'll be there at the house that Jordan built. Are you a Jordan guy or are you a LeBron guy? Please answer this correctly.
I mean, I'm a both guy.
All right.
But I have to choose. I'm a big Kobe guy. I'm a big
Kobe fine.
Guy.
You'll go neutral. I'll take that.
I was Kobe and my cousin, he was Allen Iverson, and they would play on TV, and we would go play one-on-one in our jerseys in the driveway. So that's
all right. That's fair.
It's funny how it's so much the era, right? Like I'm a kid when Jordan's playing, like Ray's a kid when Kobe's playing.
Yeah.
But I do. The book I have right here on my nightstand is Driven from Within by Michael Jordan. So if you're looking for a good book, that's one of them.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, we're going to cut you loose, let you get some rest. Thanks again for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us, and keep up the great work on the Big Ten Network.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
You too.
thanks.
That is Rapheal Davis joining here on Boilers in the Stands. Pretty cool stuff. Like I said, Bobby Buckets joining us. Somebody in the chat, I don't know who it was, says they used to mark Riddell present in class. Willie Dean. I don't know if you have, is this a teacher of yours? What's going on here, Bobby?
I don't know. I was a pretty studious guy. I wasn't skipping too many classes, that's for sure. But I had to, when you're a walk-on, you got to help boost the team GPA. That's a big responsibility for you guys. So.
Who knows? I don't know what that is. So before we get into that, I do want to bring up our sponsors before we get to the next segment of our show, and that's talking with our guy, Bobby Bucket. So I do want to give a shout out to Fan Bags Cornhole. So that Rapheal Davis interview was brought to you by Fan Bags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with Fan Bags Cornhole. There it is. Fan Bags Cornhole. So the other sponsors to our show here tonight are our guys over at Mad Mushroom Pizza. You want the best pizza in the game, you want the best cheese sticks in the game. Mad Mushroom Pizza is where you want to go. Use our coupon code BITS for 15% off any order you make. That's the coupon code BITS for Boilers in the Stands for 15% off any order at Mad Mushroom Pizza. Make sure you get that pizza from Mad Mushroom for the Big Ten tournament all week long. So that gets through some of that. Craig's taking a little, so we
were on ad break. I was trying to sneak to the bathroom quick.
He was running. No, hey, I appreciate you hopping on, Bobby. Pretty special day at West Lafayette at Mackey Arena on Sunday. Wasn't really sure. We're standing at Media Row, and everybody kept asking us all day, like, what kind of celebration do you think they're going to do after? I was like, they might bring out the trophy. I didn't expect them to, like, cut down the nets and pull out the confetti cannons. And all of a sudden, Craig was like, Braggs, they're pulling out the confetti. And before he could even finish his sentence, I was bolting towards the floor because I needed to get some shots of this. What was that experience like for you? You've been the color analyst for Purdue men's basketball radio now for a few years, and this is the first time you got to call a Big Ten champion. What was that like for you in that experience?
Sure. I mean, it was incredible. Obviously, yeah, it was great. And yeah, Chris Foreman had actually told me before the game that if they won, they were going to bring the trophy out, cut down the nets, all that good stuff, along with the senior night festivities. Whereas if they had lost, they were just going to do the senior night festivities alone. And, then we built that 24-point lead and, had a sizable lead at the half too. And I'm just like, this is great. The team really deserves this moment to have the trophy celebration in front of the home fans, kind of after everything went down with the Indiana game where we fell short. And then we clinch the share of the title and then the outright title while we're on the road. I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then, of course, Illinois storms back, ties the game. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, this is going to be just worst case scenario where, you end up losing a big lead potentially and you get all that sort of fun celebratory stuff taken away. But fortunately, we had the National Player of the Year and the Big Ten Player of the Year when we threw the ball to Zach, and he made a big time step through move to give us the lead right back. And we made enough plays down the stretch, specifically on defense, to help us win the game. So
it was pretty cool. I didn't really, that's interesting. Little tidbit of information there that they wouldn't have done it had they lost. So that's pretty interesting. I doubt the players knew that. But either way, like that's pretty crazy to think about. I'm glad we're glad they won, but now for that reason too. I mean, because there were just so many great moments and the satisfaction on Zach Edey's face. I know how much this means to him. We've talked to him here on this show. Sasha was on the show and talked about how Zach called him to start the year, worried about how, this team was going to be able to, adjust and play defense and be a good team in this league. And you could just see how important this was to him. And then, of course, having iconic moments like this with Gene Cady, meeting some of the players. Like, this is what this Purdue program is all about. And it was just cool for us, as we cover the game and fans of this team to be there to see this all. And, it's just a moment I think anybody, any Boiler fan will ever forget, certainly the people that were at the stadium. Bobby, we asked Rapheal Davis, and I got to ask you this. You see Matt Painter here with the confetti raining down on him. I find it, Rafe was a little more fair about it. He's a Big Ten analyst. I think he's got to, kind of be, even keeled, even though he's got his Boiler hat on as a former player. I find it disrespectful that Matt Painter didn't win Big Ten Coach of the Year. I understand what Chris Collins had up against him, but, for Matt Painter to win this Big Ten by 3 games, he's one of 7 teams to ever do that in the Big Ten. The other 6 coaches won Coach of the Year. To lose Jaden Ivey, a lottery pick, to lose Travion Williams, Sasha Stefanovic, Eric Hunter, Isaiah Thompson, to start 2 freshmen Northwestern, certainly a great season. They're starting 2 guards that are 26 years old, and they were the difference between one loss being the 2 and the 9 seed. I find it highly disrespectful that Matt Painter didn't win Big Ten Coach of the Year. Am I off base there?
I was pretty stunned that he didn't at least get Big Ten Coach of the Year. I will say that for sure. Everything you just spelled out, the fact that, Purdue only has one per player, named on the first, second, or third team All Big Ten. Granted, it was the Player of the Year, so obviously a vital player. But the fact that the rest of the media and the coaches didn't feel like we had anyone else on our supporting cast worthy of being on any of those top 3 teams, obviously to me shows that Coach Painter did a pretty good job getting the most out of his roster. So to win the league by that many games, they had co-defensive players of the year. They've had awards all the time in the past. So to me, Chris Collins did a hell of a job, unbelievable. But the fact that they wouldn't have thought to, make that at least a situation was kind of stunning to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you guys take it away. Craig, go ahead.
Yeah, I got to ask. Somebody in the chat saying that you stole his varsity spot in high school. This Blake Widmer guy, do you know him?
I do know Blake. Yeah, Blake. He went to Harrison High School, the same school I went to, and he was a little older than I was. He was a good wide receiver on the football team. I remember watching him snag a couple grabs out there for the Raiders from a football standpoint. But yeah, I'm not sure what Blake's hoops game was like, though.
I gotcha. Hey, I asked Rapheal the same thing. I think most people think, obviously, 3 games winning the Big Ten for Purdue is the favorite going into the Big Ten tourney. But if you were going to pick a dark horse team going in this tournament, who would be your dark horse team or 2? Rafe went way deep down the list.
Yeah, he did.
We all raised our eyebrows at his choices.
He picked Buckeyes or something.
He picked 2 teams playing on Wednesday, Ohio State and Nebraska. And I'll tell you what, I'm all for the chaos. If Tomingo wants to take over the Big Ten tournament this week, I will sign off on it because it would be quite the spectacle.
Do you mean Tominaga?
Tominga. I'm sorry. I'm not a Nebraska fan.
I
Whatever his name is, he's really good. I call him Nebraska Curry, so that's who I mean. Tominaga, Tominga.
Well, I mean, those teams are playing better ball as of late, so that's would be fun to see them continue their hot play. But as far as actually like winning the championship, I'm gonna go with so like they can't have a double bye, obviously. Let's see. Iowa, is that do they have to be playing on Thursday? That's probably what they need to play on Thursday. Does Iowa play?
Iowa's on Thursday.
Yeah.
They're 5 seed.
All right, we'll go Iowa. They got the offensive ability to, win this tournament. We saw it, of course, last year with a similar type team. And then Illinois would probably be the other team that I think is just so streaky that, the way they played on a neutral court earlier this year when they had a couple big wins in the non-conference, I think they would be capable of going on a run as far as teams that are going to play on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, with the Big Ten tourney. Actually, before I do that, I want to throw out, I do have Nebraska going pretty far. I have them winning at least 2. I don't know if Rapheal was saying he has them like going really far. I do think they pull out 2 wins. But with the Big Ten tourney, there's this like the Big Ten regular season kind of seems like it means more, and then it's right before the actual tournament. What's kind of the mindset from your experience with Painter and that, like heading into the Big Ten tourney? Because obviously you're not trying to lose games, and
right.
That's not the thing at all for sure. But like, how much is it you're preparing for specifically the Big Ten tourney, or you're just kind of using almost as like a test run and a get right for the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, like when you're in that locker room, there's no like sort of you're trying to win each game. I mean, you're approaching it like it's a win or go home situation, and you want to win a championship. The coaching staff, I suppose, maybe they're getting more into like talking about hypotheticals and if we lose this game, if we win, what can happen? Will it be good for us? Will it be bad for us? I mean, that sort of conversation takes place, but when it gets down to like how serious the staff and the players are approaching each game. I mean, they're approaching it like they are any regular season game. They're trying to win. As far as my 4 years in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament, my first year, we were the worst team in the league. So it was, you were like a Minnesota situation. You're just hoping to win a game. It'd be fun. We lost our first game to Michigan State. My sophomore year, it was a huge game. We played Iowa in the 4-5 game, and we were squarely on the bubble. So we needed to win to make sure we got in to the NCAA tournament. We did win. Ended up getting a 9 seed, I believe, playing Arizona. Beat Arizona in the first round, then lost to Joakim Noah and that crew when they won their back-to-back titles. My junior year, this one was a bummer. We were, got second in the league with the Baby Boilers and beat Wisconsin twice during their season. Of course, no one else could beat Wisconsin. Unbelievable. Even the Hoosiers lost on like a banked-in 3 in Assembly Hall. They couldn't even help us that year, which is frustrating. But we played Illinois, and they had a point guard named Dimitri McCamey. And he was just, man, he gave us the business that day. It was rough. But, going to that, we knew we were already in the tournament. But, you wanted to go far, boost your seeding, especially after you came up short, not winning the league. So that was definitely devastating to lose that game. And then senior year, we were second in the league again. I think tied for second in the league. We were ranked in the top 25 all season. So we were having a really good year. Knew we were going to make the big dance. But, we lost on senior night. We lost my senior night to Northwestern at home, which was definitely a major buzzkill. Luckily, that was the last year they decided to do the senior night festivities before the game versus after. So I fortunately was able to go out there and have some nice festivities. We didn't do speeches at that point, so I didn't have to make a nervous speech in front of all those people. But we ended up losing to Northwestern. That was a bummer, but in a weird way, it maybe refocused us to, go into the Big Ten tournament with some extra motivation. We were definitely not a happy locker room after that game. So we went into that Big Ten tournament and we played some of our best basketball this season. Robbie got really hot, won a Big Ten tournament player or MVP. And, that was an awesome experience. People talk about do you want to win the Big Ten tournament? Like, that was one of my favorite experiences of my entire career, was like winning the Big Ten tournament. You get up on that stage, the trophy, cutting the nets down. That was the only time I got to experience any of that as a player. So obviously this team has just got to experience that from a regular season standpoint. But I don't think anyone who's ever won one of those has ever been like, it wasn't that fun or that cool. Like, it's completely badass. So hopefully this team is able to do that once again. We've only won the one, which is pretty wild in Purdue's history. So they're going to definitely try to win this thing. And then, that would help solidify the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, of course, which I think is certainly vital. Sorry for that long spiel.
No,
that's good.
Go ahead.
Hey, Bobby.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Bobby. I got 2 questions for you. The first one, speaking of senior night, I don't know if you have a good David Jenkins story or just an observation from being around the team. We hear a lot about how good of a mentor he is, how good of a kind of culture guy he is, especially for the younger guys. We had the chance to talk to him, so we got to see that a little bit. But I don't know if you have something like that, just kind of talking about his importance to the team this year. So I'll let you answer that, and then I'll ask my next one.
Yeah, I like DJ a lot, man. He's a fun guy to be around. Other people have said this, I think, in some interviews I've seen, but he's just one of those guys that like never seems to be in a bad mood as far as what I see from him. Some guys are more moody than others. You just never know, like, depending on how their day's going, of course. He just seems to kind of be like one of those dudes that's just like always happy-go-lucky guy. And he's always kind of joking around with guys on the staff, some of the assistants. Him and Coach Brantley and Coach Johnson are always messing around together, which is fun to see. And then, just his relationship and the way he gets along well with the younger guys on the team is cool. As far as my experience with him, we're traveling on the road with the team, and it was pretty cool. One of the road trips, a lot of times we'll just eat at the hotel, but a couple of road trips here or there, we might go out to a restaurant. And we went out to a nice steakhouse one time, and I was able to get seated at the table with David and a couple of the other players. And it was just fun sitting there and listening to those guys banter back and forth. And David was definitely right there in the center of everything. Of course, a Jordan versus LeBron debate broke out. So of course I had to get some Jordan side of things mixed in there. And so it was just fun to talk with those guys. And
These
David's
kids,
dude.
they just don't know, Bobby. They just don't know. It's I don't even like get mad about it. I feel sorry for anyone that truly loves basketball that didn't watch Jordan play. And you can watch all the highlights you want. The Last Dance did a good job of creating kind of what it was like, but the day to day, there's just you just unless you saw it, you'll never truly understand.
I did see someone say the other day where like, they wish people would just kind of keep it more in their own era. Like Jordan's the best of his era.
No, we're gonna just say Jordan, period.
And that probably
we're
is
gonna
the optimal.
He would freaking, oh my God, he would make LeBron cry. Literally, he would have made him cry.
I'm taking Jordan, but LeBron's like 6'9".
He would have made LeBron got punked by freaking Dallas with Jason Terry.
JJ Barea was locking up.
JJ Barea was punking him. Let's talk about Brandon Newman because we have had a lot of discussion this season about Brandon because there's obviously the last 3 years really there's just been a lot of pushback with different fans that talk about how much Brandon Newman should be playing more. We have a couple people in these chats that come into our shows every show. One is called Bitcoin is Freedom. He's basically, a part of this show because he's so vocal about Brandon. And we had pushback. We had arguments. It got heated at one point because, there's just a lot of people pounding the table that this guy should have played more. And hey, I had to eat a lot of crow because I sat there and I tried to explain why he wasn't playing. And I thought I kind of called it this mythical, unicorn, so to speak, that people were trying to make him more than what his role was. And I thought people were kind of disrespecting the fact that he even found a role on this team this year and carved out a nice little spot, as a rotational guy. But man, did he shut a lot of people up, including me. This dude led the team in minutes on Sunday, led the team in points, and more importantly, might have provided a spark for this team that was sorely needed. I haven't seen this team play this loose, and I know Illinois made it close at the end, but I still, even regardless of that fact, have not seen this team play this loose or this confident. Braden Smith, all these guys, it feels like a trickle-down effect, all because of Brandon Newman. How much of an impact is he making here at the end of the season?
A huge impact. And the word you said there, spark, I think there's no question he's given this team a spark, certainly on both ends of the floor, but in particular, I think the defensive end, first and foremost, just his ability to, get some steals and get some easy baskets for this team. It's just, the last couple of years, we've not been a very good team at creating turnovers. This year, we've certainly been a much better defensive team as a whole. Our efficiency numbers defensively are certainly way better, and we're a better positional defensive team. Zach's improved from a rim protection standpoint, all that stuff. But, we've played some opponents, later in the season here that have certainly had some guards on the perimeter that have been, able to get loose a little bit off the bounce. And some of that's just been talented guards we're going against. And some of that's also been the way we do ball screen coverage and the way that can open up the mid-range at times to other teams that have those talented guards who are able to thrive in the mid-range area. But Brandon, is that guy on the perimeter for us who's probably the most athletic and probably can apply the most pressure with his lateral quickness and his physicality. And so having him, really assert himself has helped us in certain matchups. We were obviously a great defensive team for most of the year and won a lot of games. And so I think maybe, where Brandon's strength as far as his defensive ability, which is on the ball defense, maybe, the need for it hadn't really arose as much as it has lately. And so his emergence there has been definitely big. And, he's just been someone, unfortunately, Brandon, he's just been a lot of ups and downs throughout his career. The inconsistencies there have certainly held him back. Coach Painter's always even said it. He said it last year, like when Brandon plays limited minutes, that wasn't necessarily something that fit his style or just fit his game.
Right.
And so even though this year he was more solidly in the rotation than last year and was certainly playing more minutes, he still was not playing that 25 to 30 minute role like he has here lately. And so, I think it was, cool to see he played all those minutes and he started making better decisions in moments where maybe when he was playing lesser minutes, he might have forced a shot here or there. There was one possession, I think, in the second half where him and Mason both took turns driving it in, jump stopping, kicking it back. Ball got worked around, and I think somebody hit a three, or maybe not a three because we didn't hit any threes in the second half.
Yeah.
But we got a bucket. Maybe Zach got a bucket inside or something, and it was just wow, those guys made two really good decisions. And Brandon in particular might have been a guy that would have taken a tough contested pull up in the past, whereas I feel like he was in the flow of the game, not pressing, not forcing, and so his contributions on defense have been big. And then from an offensive standpoint, we just need shot making. We've been so inconsistent shooting the three ball this year. And that's part of Brandon's issue too, right? If Brandon was shooting above 40% from three, trust me, he would have been playing more minutes earlier in the season. We were desperate for guys who were going to shoot the three consistently. Brandon, unfortunately throughout the year, his percentages were, not much different than a lot of the other guys that were struggling too. And so anytime he had a chance to maybe see something, like Northwestern game, for instance, he plays some really nice defense, makes some steals, makes some pretty good decisions offensively, takes good shots, just doesn't cash them in. And so, you don't, you're not able to stand out as much from an offensive standpoint. Whereas, fortunately against Illinois, he was able to knock down some shots in the first half. And then from an offensive ceiling standpoint, with his shot making, if he's able to shoot I think we all think he may be capable of doing, and he's shown in the past, then our ceiling offensively certainly raises.
Yeah, I just think, it's the one thing that stood out, in the IU game at IU. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer at times were timid. Brandon's not timid, so I think he helps there. And to your point, when he had an offensive rebound where he could have easily put another three up, he did it. He kicked it, and I think it ended in a Braden Smith three. I just think. And then I also think you have to give Matt Painter some credit. I know there's people that will be like, hey, it's long overdue. He should have been in earlier. But, if it ain't broke, don't fix it is the old adage. This is one of the best teams in the country, top 5 in the country. He could have stuck to the lineup, and instead going to Wisconsin, final 2 regular season games of the year, he switches the lineup because he sees that they need to address an issue, and it works. So, better late than never. Brandon Newman gets into the lineup, and I think there's an evolution to Matt there because I watch Matt Painter and Brandon Newman's interactions, and I know Matt gets frustrated with Brandon. So it's almost like he's saying, you know what, I'm going to put him in there for better or worse, and I'm going to live with the 1 or 2 mistakes he may make because maybe the mistakes will go down with the more minutes he plays, which is kind of a weird way of finding that. But that seems to be what's happening. And maybe, we don't want to jinx it. Let's see what happens in March. But it definitely looks right so far. So, I give Brandon a lot of credit for keeping his head down and going to work. I give Matt credit for identifying the issue before it was too late and finding a spark for this team. I'm going to let these guys take it away.
Yeah, Bobby, we talked about this in the show the last time, and one of the things I said was I kind of felt like that was a chicken and egg argument in terms of Brandon's decision-making because, to me, it feels like when those guys are sliding in for 10, 12 minutes, you kind of get the tendency to, I got to get my shots up when I can. I got to make a move when I can type of thing. And, really, to me, Brandon's decision-making got better when he got more time. These last 2 games. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's making that next pass. He's doing this, he's doing that, but he's playing 20 minutes or whatever, 25 minutes. The last game, the most minutes of anybody that played. How much do you think of that factors in there of just, when you're only coming in, and Painter talks about when you're coming in for a short amount of time, you feel like you got to do things quicker and that type of stuff. I guess, how do you see that playing in, that kind of chicken egg argument there?
No question. I think you're spot on there. The same way Ethan said it in the past, with him, he was an offensive player his whole life in high school. And all of a sudden now you have to become this defensive player. Brandon's been the same way. Brandon's been an offensive player. He's always played through his offense. He's been a great 3-point shooter, shot maker his whole career. He's a guy who can make tough shots. And so I think, like you said, he comes in for 10 or 12 minutes I think he's thinking like, I got to impact the game with my strongest asset, which is shooting. And so there would be certainly times that he would, take tough shots, I think, that are heavily contested when he should maybe make another pass or just pull the ball out, throw the ball inside, because he wants to try to like make that impact and thinks, I'm guessing, he's thinking through his head, if I make a couple shots, that'll earn me some more minutes. Whereas, for him, it's always just been about like guard your what off, make good decisions, take good shots. And, by getting these more minutes here as of late and really, but I think it started with the Indiana game, of course, and even the Northwestern game to some degree, starting to make plays defensively and starting to realize like, okay, I can impact the game on the other end of the floor. I think it's done wonders for him because now I don't think he's just like thinking everything revolves around if I make shots or not. I think he, that Wisconsin game, I think was hopefully that'll be kind of that like turning point moment for him because he doesn't make a single shot the entire game on a bunch of good looks, yet makes the 2 free throws down the stretch, and coach still plays him a bunch because he's impactful on the defensive end. And so I'm with you. I hope that the increased minutes continue to allow him to relax and not force things and make good decisions.
Well, and then if you got Braden at point, and then, at the end, I know Fletcher's had his struggles defensively. Well, you saw Ethan at the end make 2 vital steals that turned into buckets the other way. So now you got Ethan and Brandon out there who are really good on-ball defenders. I think that helps some of the problems that other guards have been creating, against us.
Yeah, sure. He wasn't doing that until he went offense for defense at the end of the game, though.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who was on the court. I just know both of them were making plays.
Yeah, Payne's always been really good going offense for defense. That's something he's done for a long time. I really like how he does that. And, the final 4 to 5 minutes of a game, he'll save timeouts a lot of times for those, opportunities to go offense for defense. Like when we beat or almost beat Rutgers at home this year, he had a great usage of offense for defense, called a timeout late, got Fletcher back in the game. Fletcher hits the dagger 3 that appeared at the moment was maybe going to be the winner. Obviously doesn't end up being that way, but it was a great usage of being able to go offense for defense. And like you said, with Ethan and Brandon becoming good perimeter defenders with length and size, and both move their feet really well. Hopefully we can late in games get stops when we need to, if that's needed.
Take it away, young bucks.
Got you. You're calling all the games. You're right there. You're being able to see a lot. Is there anything early in a game where you're like, okay, yeah, Braden's here today? Because, you look through the stat line and even just watching, like, there are games that he feels like he's more taking a back seat. And, sometimes maybe it's because Edey's just Zach Edey. And it's just like, all right, get him the ball. And then there's other games. And it was even in the Illinois game, the first half, had his fingerprint all over that first half. And then, second half kind of not as much. But is there anything you see kind of early and you're like, oh, yeah, I think Braden's got it today. Like, he's here.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, sometimes I think it's just game flow and stuff, but I will say a guy like Braden who, is someone the staff is always having to like try to encourage to shoot and take his open shots. I do think as a young player and as someone who is just inclined to be a pass first player and get others involved, whenever I feel like if he misses his first shot or two, I feel like it does make him substantially less aggressive as the game unfolds compared to maybe games where he hits his first couple shots. And then I feel like he gets all that confidence and from a scoring standpoint, and that makes him so much more difficult to defend because at that point now he's looking to score if that defense allows it or he can facilitate. I just feel like he gets his mojo if he's able to get a shot or two go down, just like so many other players. I mean, it's not just only Braden, of course, but because of Braden's ability and want to, from just a player standpoint, to be a guy who's more facilitator, I think he can kind of get reluctant to shoot when we need to be more aggressive at times if maybe he misses a couple shots early in the game.
Yeah, to me, I felt like he looked as loose. I said the team, but Braden was, I think, on full display of that looseness here on Sunday. And I did ask him, and I asked some pretty lob questions in the pressers if I did have the guts to ask one. But the toughest one I did ask was Braden. and that was after the IU game, and then they came back and won, I think, maybe against Ohio State. I can't really remember anymore. But whoever they beat the next game, maybe it was Penn.
Iowa.
I don't know.
Iowa.
I said Iowa. Thank you. I asked them, like, hey, are they talking to you here in the film room? Because so many times in that at IU game, they went under the screen and he didn't shoot. And he's got to shoot that. He kind of got a little snappy at me. I think he took exception to me asking the question, but I think at the end of the day, Matt ended up coming in right after that and saying exactly what I was trying to ask. No disrespect. I just wanted to hear his observation on that. But I think the more he shoots when they go under the screen, the more dangerous this team is. So go ahead, Aiden Firewood.
Yeah, Bobby, I was going to ask you, I guess, who do you think is the best lineup to have in there right now? Or maybe you don't want to kind of speculate on that, but I do think
trying to get me in trouble, trying to maybe pick favorites.
No. But
whatever lineup's making shots, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like we've talked a lot about the Morton-Newman combo. Obviously, you got to have Smith and Edey in there. Yeah. But the Morton-Newman combo is, and then if you had First as well, it's so good defensively. I mean, you look at the on-off numbers, and that group in particular, we saw it firsthand against Illinois, right? Just kind of locked down at the end. But I think when you talk about decision makers on the offensive end, I think Fletcher's a guy who gets a lot of flack recently. I just don't get it, because I think his decision making, his gravity as a shooter, he's a guy who can attack a closeout. Some of those guys I just mentioned have a little bit less of a time of doing that, I guess. So I don't know. I'm wondering your thoughts on that. You obviously don't call anybody out or anything, but it was interesting to me of how early Coach Paint went offense, defense. He did it around the 6-minute mark, which was pretty early in that game. And you look at, okay, Gillis provides spacing. First is a better defender. Ethan's such a good defender, but then you get Fletch in there and he can make some plays offensively. And then it's just the other thing real quick was I was interested to get your thoughts about the Smith-Edey pick and roll and the usage of that, because I've been to a few practices and Coach Paint's talked about he doesn't want to, if he can help it, run the pick and roll. And I think he takes a lot of pride in his sets, which are the best, no question about it, in the country. And so I think it's interesting. I don't know how much insight you have into that, of like, kind of just spamming that high pick and roll because Braden and Zach are so good together versus, trying to throw it inside or running a set or whatever the case may be. I just think that's an interesting, game flow thing in when Purdue plays.
Yeah. As far as the first question with the lineups, having Fletcher out there is certainly, critical at times. I feel like just to have that second guy on the perimeter next to Braden who can really make a play off the bounce. Fletcher's shown a lot of times this year his ability to get to the rim or to the mid-range and score. So from an offensive standpoint, having Zach plus Braden and Fletcher, with both those guards having the ability to play off pick and roll, penetrate, facilitate, and make perimeter shots is definitely huge from an offensive point. So that, the best offensive team lineup, of course, is going to have Fletcher in there. But then there's, certain teams we play that maybe if they have 3 really good perimeter players, that can put Fletcher in a tough spot as well. And so that's where maybe there would be, more need to have Brandon and Ethan out there. But I guess, Brandon's kind of become this like pivot point, right? Like if he's killing it offensively, maybe then you can go with Ethan, get a little bit more defense in there. Whereas if maybe Brandon's struggling, and then you're like, all right, we need Fletcher's offense in there. So it's, or then, Mason and Caleb, if either of those guys, Mason's of course the more established shooter. So maybe if he's making shots, then you can maybe live with more defense on the perimeter in the backcourt. It's just, there's so many moving pieces there and so many factors depending on like what the perimeter play is like on the offensive end of the other team. How is our team doing shooting and offensively? Is there no matchup for Zach? Are they single covering Zach and there's no matchup for him? So then you don't need as much offense on the perimeter because we're just going to throw it to Zach and let him go to work. obviously more teams now are kind of deciding we're not going to let Zach beat us.
Yeah.
So the need for offense on the perimeter is certainly increased. So lots of moving parts there, but there's probably no, you would love to have your top 5 guys just make your top lineup on both ends of the floor. And that's probably not that's not the case right now for us. So then the second question, the high screen and roll. Yeah, I mean, I love Braden with the ball in his hands. I just think he's such a great decision maker. He's made some passes this year that I just feel like are next level type passes. He's got such an awesome feel for the game. So I, of course, love seeing him in high ball screen action with Zach. I think Zach's really improved also as a guy rolling to the rim. He's got great hands. I even like, Braden will get in there and he'll jump stop and kind of like just let things kind of settle a little bit. And then he might drop off a little dump bounce pass to Zach, or he might throw it up over the top because only 7'4" Zach's getting that pass. Just little things like that may, might necessarily be going full speed, but he's got the patience there. I think he's done a nice job throughout the season of making plays like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure the staff is trying to find that happy balance as far as running, normal sets to get Zach touches on the block, get defenses caught in rotations, or, of course, getting some high ball screen action with Braden too. So, I'm sure they have all those efficiency numbers and analytics that they look at regarding points per possession with different things. And, that's going to be huge for the staff to obviously push the right buttons here in March.
Let's talk before we, try to cut you loose, because we could probably talk to you another hour, and we can make you, because you have no choice. You're obligated to whatever we ask you here on Boilers in the Stands. But, the Big Ten tournament quickly, anybody that wants to throw around any particular questions. I know we asked about dark horses, but just overall, Purdue's, draw that they got. I feel like Purdue and IU could be on a crash course for a third meetup in the Big Ten championship. I'd love to see that. But just overall, your expectations for Purdue in the Big Ten tournament overall.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, my expectations are definitely to get to the championship and win it. We got a great team. I feel like we got a little mojo back, even though we did squander that big lead. I just do feel like, the lineup change and just, some of the positive momentum we have going with winning our last 2 games, celebrating the championship. I feel like all the players are in a good spot. I mean, it was amazing. That winning that Wisconsin game, was just so huge for morale. I could just feel it in the locker room after, and on the bus and the plane after, all that stuff. You're just like, man, thank God we won this game. Just because, it would have been such a weird vibe clinching the Big Ten the way we would have while also losing.
Right.
Would have been, just tough. So morale was really high after that Wisconsin win. And then of course, morale was high after the Illinois win. So I think, things are in a positive place for us. So hopefully we can advance as far as possible in this. And I would like to, certainly win that first game or two, just to, I think, solidify our 1 seed spot. I saw Craig, you had a tweet earlier today about just the percentages of 1 seeds and how far they advance. And the 1 seeds advance to the Final Four significantly more than the other seeds. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with the 1 seeds are usually the best teams. So it's kind of chicken and egg there, but they also get the more favorable matchups. And I think that's pretty clear cut. You get that, the 16 seed, of course, has only beat the 1 once. And so I think, by getting, that first game where 99.9% of the time you're going to make it through, get some of those jitters out of the way of the tournament, get accustomed to shooting in that arena you're going to play in the next game, all that sort of thing. And then it just puts less pressure on a team like Purdue, for instance, this year. When we shoot well, we're elite. We beat teams by double figures essentially every time we shoot well. If you only have to win 3 games essentially to get to the Final Four compared to 4 from a true, seriously competitive standpoint, you increase your odds of hopefully maybe those 3 games you'll shoot great, or maybe 2 of those 3 games you'll shoot great, and then the one you don't, you win the free throw margin, you win the rebounding margin, you do enough defensively to win the game. So, it's going to be interesting, and hopefully we can keep our positive neutral site mojo going this year.
Well, and the 4 and the 5 just tend to get upset way more than the 2 and the 3. Good so points. When you get to that matchup, a lot of times you're playing a 12 or Not that it helped last year, but you're playing a 12 or a 13 maybe in that scenario rather than playing a 4 or 5. So the path just has a higher percentage chance of being an easier path. And I don't understand what people don't like. You could see me beating my head against the wall on Twitter, Bobby, on those comments of like, I don't understand why people don't see the value in a 1 seed versus a 2. But nonetheless, it is what it is. As you've watched college basketball this year, is there any team out there that you watched and you were like, man, I hope we don't see them in the tournament? Like from a different conference, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, out there, anybody like that you're just like, man, that's going to be a matchup nightmare for us?
For me, it's probably Gonzaga.
What are we doing?
That's the Gonzaga shtick there. No, obviously,
get Robbie.
We were able to get
right
the Zags this year, which was good for
call up Robbie right now, and we'll just prank call him.
No, I mean honestly, I think that's what makes me happy and really optimistic with just the future of this season. Is in so many other years there has been a team where I'm like, please don't let us be in their regional, just because I'm so impressed with their talent. Like that Baylor team a couple years ago with all those good guards. The Villanova team we ended up getting put in the same regional with the year Isaac got hurt. There's been years where there's teams that way. I haven't seen a team this year that I think is like a great elite team. So that definitely makes me feel happy that there's a chance that there's not a team that I feel like if I see in our bracket that I'm going to worry we can't beat. So.
Yeah, and Gonzaga's up by 24 against St. Mary's per Mike Anderson here in the chat.
There we go. That's solidifying our 1 seed spot. Thank you, Gonzaga.
True.
So, yeah, I mean, I think regardless, I mean, obviously the 1 seed is the one you want. But I kind of think they're in a really good spot because if they end up as the 2 seed, they're going to be in Louisville. So if that's the worst case scenario,
good consolation prize for sure.
It sucks. You want the 1 seed because of all the metrics, but as we learned last year, you can play a 15 seed and have all your hopes and dreams completely crushed into a million pieces to the point where you're crying on the flight home. So it, like beggars can't be choosers when it comes to, however Purdue's going to get there and slay this dragon and break this curse. It's just going to be what it is. But a 1 seed probably is the easiest path. I think we all understand this. Joe, Aiden, do you got any more for Bobby before we let him go to bed as far as Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament is concerned?
I'm good. Let's let him go to bed.
Works for me.
I mean, he's contractually obligated to answer
like
all of
Aiden
our questions. I mean, I don't know. There's any of these in these starred that we had. We can save these for us.
Yeah, I was mainly starring those for us later.
Okay, just making sure there wasn't any for Bobby. I refuse to let him go until he's answered every single question.
No, just that one guy that was mad that Bobby took his varsity spot.
Yeah, that's interesting. and then Craig had a little Easter egg from Wisconsin. Are you aware that you have other stalkers, Bobby?
Yeah, that was Craig and I getting a little pregame chat. I had no idea Craig's son was a Wisconsin fan, so that blindsided me. We were talking about
right
Frank Tank days and all that stuff.
I introduced him to my son, and the first thing he does is start talking smack. He's like, yeah, Purdue's only won 5 times here, and I was on the team twice.
Yeah.
Gotta let him know.
Yeah, I was definitely doing some bragging about how the teams my junior and senior year went up to Madison and got it done, baby.
So, all right, Bobby. Be an interesting Big Ten tournament. Certainly excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun basketball being played. Craig and I will be there. We're fully credentialed, so we'll be there for every game that we possibly can. So excited to see you there. Let you get some rest before then. Take care. Say hi to that beautiful family of yours. Boilers get their 25th Big Ten championship, and you were on the call for every single one of those games, man. It's pretty cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was really cool. I've been definitely extremely fortunate to call games for this team the last 3 years. They've been really good.
They've been pretty good, huh?
The last 2, of course, really, really good. So, I can't I pinch myself every day thinking about the opportunity I get. So definitely blessed, and it was a awesome dream season for us to win the regular season by 3 games and celebrate on the floor and take pictures with the trophy and all that stuff. So
Did you see my picture, Bobby?
I did. I saw you touching some hardware.
The AD was letting other people take pictures. Like right as I was walking, I was going to go to the bathroom, and these randos, got to take one. I was like, do I even ask here? I'm sure it's not the best look, but I was like, you know what? How many times am I going to see this thing where I'm going to have a chance? So Mike Babinski saw. I'm like, you mind, Mike? He was like, fine. All right.
Yeah.
I'll never forget you last year out in Connecticut when I looked across the court and you were just down there courtside filming, and I was like, Braggs is just not scared of any moment.
No, you should have seen me for the combine last week. I went right up to Jerry Jones and plenty of other people, and we're like introducing myself like I'm somebody. They'll find out who I am soon enough, Bobby. You know who I am.
The time's coming, my man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You know who those randos were, Greg? Those were donors that give like $50,000 a year.
Hey,
those weren't random. Those weren't randos.
Spoilers in the stands. Come on, now we're doing something impactful for the community too. All right, Bobby. Well, have a good night. We'll see you at the house that Michael Jeffrey Jordan built here this weekend.
Yes, sir. All right, see you, boys.
Later. That is Bobby Buckets Riddell. Doing our thing. Yeah, I've never used that screen where we put him but we had, all of us here, and I just wanted to highlight our guests. And I've actually never used that before.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was really good. It made it look more organized. Got to put a highlight on our special guest. 2 former Boilermakers here today. So it was certainly cool to see. And, we appreciate their time as always. And I know some people are asking in the chat about the combine. I'm happy to ask a few questions about those here at the end of the show. We won't go too much longer. We already hit the hour-and-a-half mark, but we wanted to give you guys a nice Big Ten basketball preview. So you have a few days to let that marinate and watch it, before Purdue plays all the way until Friday. I think Joe and Aiden have talked about maybe doing some recap shows for the Big Ten tournament itself. So maybe keep on the lookout for, their Feed the Post podcast, maybe showing up on this channel here in the next few days. I'm going to kind of leave that up to them, and we'll see how this works. We're just going to kind of take it day by day. Obviously, you're going to get a post-game show for every Purdue game, and, we're going to try to organize this as best we can, and then we're going to have a bracket show on Sunday where we try to go live as the brackets being revealed, but the caveat being whether or not Purdue is in the Big Ten championship, which might throw a little bit of a loop into the production of what we're trying to do. So just bear with us this week, but Feed the Post might be on your channels here. I don't know if you guys are going to do a Wednesday night thing, but Thursday there's going to be a ton of games. Maybe you'll just do a Thursday night thing. I'm going to go to the United Center Thursday night. I'm going to check out Illinois. They're going to play at like 5:30 that day. So I'm really rooting for Illinois and Northwestern to face off again. I think that would just be an electric atmosphere at the United Center. There's a lot of hype, obviously, around Northwestern. Illinois fans travel well. You let those 2 teams converge, and I think you'll get a little bit of March Madness that night at the UC. So your guys' thoughts, we can kind of kick it around for a few minutes at least about the Big Ten tournament outside of like what we've talked about with Bobby and Rafe.
We did preview a lot. We actually did an episode today on Feed the Post, but
okay, cool.
Some of the things like that Penn State Illinois game, like you said, you're rooting for Illinois. I'm gonna be probably rooting for Penn State just because I want Shrews, and Pickett, and actually just Penn State in general. I like their team. A win against Illinois probably solidifies them in the tournament, and I think that'd be huge. What is this, year 2 of Shrews at Penn State? The Rutgers-Michigan game, that's a huge game. Both, like, it feels like a win. Like, if you lose, you're not making the tournament type game. So I like, that's a big one. That's, it sets up some really good games from the start. Like, those 2 are big. Iowa versus Ohio State would be interesting if that happens. Versus Wisconsin is still interesting, a little less interesting just because of the style that Wisconsin plays. And then, even Nebraska, Nebraska's been fun. They've been so much better. I think really from day one, or at least the second day for sure, it's going to be a lot of really, really good games. I think the bracket broke almost as well as it could have for Purdue. You get Northwestern, IU, Maryland, all on the opposite side. Illinois, who's dangerous, on the opposite side. And I'm not saying that I do have them winning it all, but obviously I know they could get upset round one. But I think the bracket broke really, really well for them from a Purdue standpoint.
And IU as well. Maryland's a tough team, but Northwestern and those types of teams, I think they got just as good a draw. And in Purdue's sense, they're playing teams that they've beaten. So, I like both of those, in that regard. We had one question now that Craig came back, and I want to ask you this, Craig. Do you think Rutgers or Michigan is the better matchup for Purdue? I think I know your answer, but I want Eric to hear it.
Rutgers without Mag, for sure. That's just a different team in terms of what they can do defensively. He brings a level of length that McConnell and Mulcahy are both pretty long guards too. But I want to say Mag's probably 6'7", I'm guessing. He can just trap and double at a different level. I think they haven't looked nearly as impressive since. Spencer has not been the ball of fire that he was the first half of the season. So I like our chances against Rutgers. Although I will say, going in that Michigan game, and I don't know if you guys remember in the group chat, I said I was more scared of playing Michigan without Jet Howard than with Jet Howard, because I thought they were actually going to focus on the fact that they have the second best center in the Big Ten. Sorry, Trace Jackson Davis. And use him as a focal point in their offense, which I thought they did more against us, and they focused on him and relied on him more, which I think that team would be a lot better if they did. Some people that cover Michigan that we've had on the show, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think they feel a similar way. So Jet just takes some crazy shots and makes some bad decisions. And quite frankly, I think Jawan puts the ball in his hands in situations and just tells him to go make a play when he shouldn't be doing it too. So I don't know that either one of them scare me a ton. The thing that scares me the most is beating Michigan State a third time. I think beating any good team in the Big Ten 3 times is really difficult. And I do think Michigan State is playing some really good ball right now.
I did see somewhere I found on Twitter, and I heard Assembly Call talk about this too, because they were talking about who you'd rather play in the Big Ten as IU fans, and there's this. It's kind of a sports adage. You never want to play a team that you've beaten twice a third time. It's more of a NFL thing that holds true with the numbers. But in college basketball, it's over 70% the team that's 2-0 wins that third time in college basketball by a pretty significant margin as far as how many. And that was over the last 10 years of statistical data. So, at the end of the day, it comes down to matchups. And if they beat you twice, it's because of the matchups. But to Craig's point, the Big Ten is different in that regard. You might throw out the stats when it comes to this. Now let's shoot through some of these super chats, so to speak, and then we can call it a night, before we get too far over the 2-hour mark. So let's shoot through these fast. Derek Lucic, Aiden, I want to direct this at you because you talked about being at practice and talked about the pick and roll. Second half versus Illinois, we went into the get the ball to Edey, quote unquote, meltdown. What do we do to get those blinders off?
I think a big part of that is the lineup that was in. I think that defense lineup, as we kind of talked about with Bobby in a little bit in the Illinois postgame show, where Morton and Newman are both in, lends itself towards trying to get the ball to Zach. I think when you are in the midst of a choke, so to speak, it wasn't a choke, they won the game, but when you're in the midst of blowing a big lead, I think you want to revert back to your identity offensively. And obviously that's our identity offensively, is get the ball to Zach, right? And no matter what. And in the second half of that Illinois game, and then sometimes this year, like teams have just said, okay, we're going to take away Zach. We're going to double him. We're going to front him with extreme backside help. We're going to send kind of the house at Zach and make somebody else beat us. And when you're somebody else is our Newman, First and Morton, and then obviously Smith, like that's hard to do. So I was advocating a little bit for maybe some more high ball screen and roll with Smith and Edey, get him out in a little more space where it's harder to take him away. I think it's hard to do that too, because you don't have a lot of shooting around him when that defensive lineup's in there. So trying to get offense defense where the offensive guys can be in there. I think they made an awesome adjustment, the staff did, to bring Edey up a little bit higher. They were really just smothering him when he got the ball deep. So they brought him up, a couple of feet more and let him catch the ball in the post, about halfway between the free throw line and the rim. And it gave him the space to make that up and under move that Bobby talked about that put Purdue ahead. And that was a great adjustment by the staff. So I think it's just a kind of a game by game thing. I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Yeah. And JB just joined and said he immediately hit the like button. Maybe we didn't do a good enough job of forcing people to do this earlier, but everyone that's hanging out right now in the YouTube chat, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Been growing this thing really well, and that's credit to all of you, the listeners and viewers of this show. So we appreciate your support as always. Back to some of these super chats. Let's see. The plus minus, I want to throw to you, Joe, because you're the numbers guy, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have these on top of your, at your fingertips, but Andy Buck asks, you guys see those plus minus numbers on the Big Ten season for Fletcher Lawyer?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things that go into this, right? One is recency bias. We look at for anybody that doesn't know, I guess I should explain. In Big Ten play, it was put up by what I forget his name.
JG Trends.
Yeah, JG Trends does definitely some good stuff on Twitter. Put out plus minus for everybody on Purdue from the entire Big Ten season, so 20 game sample size. Fletcher Lawyer had the highest plus. It was plus whatever it was. It was the best. It was him and Smith were top two, and then Edey was right behind it third, and then a very big gap. So there's a couple things that go into this, right? You look at that, and there's the recency bias of Lawyer struggling a bit, and you're like, wow, that feels wrong. But like, Lawyer was really, really good for the first 12 games for the most part, 13 games, and started to slide off then. So like, that's still more than half the Big Ten season, and there. It's even now, it's not like Fletcher has been terrible. Obviously, you want to see some shots go, and there's obviously the defensive issues that we have seen. And we're, I'm not saying that there isn't, but the other thing with it is individual plus minus can still be noisy. It really can be, even with a larger sample size. It's, it's another one that it's a quick stat. I don't think it's one that you can like live and die by. I think it's one you can just kind of quickly reference and maybe get a little bit of knowledge from. But, Lawyer shares a lot of his minutes with Zach Edey, and that's just going to automatically boost your plus minus. And, the first 12 games, a big talking point was like, hey, Purdue has no bench at all. And so now this bench comes in and you have more minus there. And Lawyer's not sharing that as much, so his plus minus is going to stay higher. Same thing if you look at the plus minus from last game. Ethan Morton was a minus 24, right? Part of it was, just being in for runs or whatever, but he's only in for defense for the most part. And so if he's in for defense, he can go like 0, -2, -3. And then if he's out for offense, he can't go up. So like there's that part too. I think just to summarize though, like Lawyer does make a bigger impact than maybe we remember, just because he struggled a little bit as of late. But, there's still things that he does really well, the gravity that Aiden mentioned earlier, and things that he still does really well. And if he knocks down a couple shots, I think we're looking on him in a much more positive outlook over these past 5 games.
Right. It's a great – go ahead, Craig.
I was going to say, and plus minus can be really noisy just based on who else is on the floor, like you said, unlike quad metrics, which are absolute and completely accurate, Joe.
If we want me to rant on quads, I can. But
Sydney says Joe knows ball, and then Willie says Joe knows crochet hats. Bust that thing out. There we
it is.
go. Look
Yeah.
at that.
Has it
Look at
right,
that.
right in his disposal.
Look at that. That's funny. So, let's get back into some of these. Let's see. Craig, Jeff Parks asks, what was Carter and Greg's take on Purdue's postseason prospects when you met them after the Illinois game? Greg has it, not me, Greg from Field of 68, hasn't been real kind on another show.
Yeah, I did not get to actually meet up with them because the post-game festivities took so long after the Purdue game. They had gone out, watched an entire game, ate dinner, and gone back to the hotel by the time Greg and I got out of Mackey. So that never actually ended up happening, but did visit with him a little bit, both during and after the game, just there in Mackey real quick. And, he at halftime, he said, I oftentimes doubt Purdue, and then I've come to watch him twice. And at the end of the Michigan State game, he said, I left saying, this is the best team in the country. At halftime of the Illinois game, he said, I'm right back to where I was at the end of the Michigan State game. This is the best team in the country. And then the second half happened, right? And he had some tweets about the guards getting rattled and whatnot. But I don't think that's anything different than what you heard Rapheal talk about earlier. Like if we're going to be honest and objective about this, Raphael's just being nicer about it in terms of his concerns, maybe of guard play at certain times against athletic guards, and Greg being a non-Purdue guy on a different platform is maybe being a little bit more vocal about it from that standpoint. So obviously I think all of us here, we're all really positive about Purdue's chances of making a deep run. But we also recognize and see those same concerns, I would say.
Do you know if coaches get a bonus for, a monetary award for Coach of the Year?
It depends on the contract. If it's built into the contract, some people have a flat fee, some people have bonus awards.
So Chris Collins probably doesn't have his contract because he never thought in a million years he'd ever win one.
It's contract to contract, though. It's however it's set up.
Okay. Willie Dean asks Aiden and Joe, can we get Feed the Post on YouTube? And like we've been talking about a little bit here, I think maybe they're gonna, throw some of these shows on our channel that we're rolling here. Obviously, they're welcome to make their own channel. They're free to do whatever they want. But they are also available, because he mentioned after that he's not much of a Twitter guy. They are available on audio platforms. You guys want to tell them how they can find you there?
Yeah, we are on Apple, Google, and Spotify. To search Feed the Post. We've been doing twice a week pretty consistently. One Purdue, one Big Ten episode. We just dropped our Big Ten preview, and then we also talked a little bit about Purdue. That actually came out today. But yeah, Apple, Google, and Spotify. Feed the Post. Get more of me and Aiden just talking hoops pretty much. Don't quite know what our schedule is going to be for March, but there's going to be content for sure. That much I can promise.
Yeah. So Eric asked, and I want to throw this to you, Aiden. Can we talk about how Purdue played super well with TKR, Trey Kaufman-Red on the floor? Very promising for a potential next year without Edey. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he was good. I mean, if you're looking at the Purdue team and you're ranking them just based simply on offensive skills / production, he's probably makes your top 5. And so he just happens to be playing behind the consensus national player of the year, at his position. So he's not going to get as many minutes, but he's very skilled. And for him to step in, hit a 3, Craig was next to me, and every time we were in there, I was just like, throw it into him, man. Throw it into him. Like, give him the ball and let him work. I don't think really anyone in Illinois is equipped to handle TKR. Maybe Dane Danger in that low post, but he's a little quicker than Dane. So yeah, I love him, man. I love what I've seen from him. I think, he has struggles protecting the rim. He had some struggles passing the basketball, but during that stretch against Illinois in the first half, he certainly helped us generate, increase that lead, because he has something that his fellow counterparts on the bench now do not, which is just offensive skill. Really, I hate to make it sound that harsh, but
he knocked down a 3 ball too. So I like seeing that from TKR. That's in his bag. He doesn't show it too much. I was surprised when I thought that was the only 3-point shot he took all year, and Craig corrected me and said he's taken 20. That completely shocked me when he said that. I couldn't believe that, but I'm excited to see him expand his game. I also think, somebody made a comp to his post-up game very similar to Travion Williams, and I'm seeing it. I thought that was a pretty interesting comp, even though their body size is a little different. And you guys have mentioned it before here on these post-game shows. He does such a great job. You can already see where him and Braden Smith are going to be very effective in the pick and roll, because Trey Kaufman-Run does a good job of getting that, bringing that ball in. He's got good hands and makes a play with it. So excited to see that role expand. I don't know what did you just pull something up? I saw Craig.
Oh, it was just a comment. It wasn't a question.
Okay. I got a question for you then, Craig, from Jeff Parks, because you're really good with this stuff. You follow it as close as anyone. How much weight does the seating committee put on statistical metrics? UCLA really seems to be getting lots of respect lately. Strength of schedule is 92, but quad wins are close to Purdue.
Well, I think where people get confused in general with the committee is they'll lock into one thing and say that's the only thing that matters. So you might look at it and say, well, this team has to be this seed because quad 1 wins, or that seed because of quad 2 wins, or strength of schedule, whatever it might be. They take into account multiple factors. They look at KenPom, they look at net rankings, they look at strength of record, they look at strength of schedule, which are 2 different metrics. They weigh all of those things in, and they use it as a guidebook. So Joe and I were having a conversation earlier of, Purdue has 3 more wins that are just outside of quad 1s. They're going to take that guidebook and of UCLA's season, Purdue's season, and then they're going to delve into that deeper and break that down between the 4 number 1 seeds. But you can use that general guide and say, okay, there's no way Maryland's a 1 seed. We have from this general guide of these general metrics that we're looking at that these 5 teams are truly vying for a 1 seed. Now let's really dive deeper into it. At least I hope that's how they're doing it. Nobody other than people behind closed doors can absolutely know for sure. So the statistics matter a lot. It's just they're going to look at a lot of different data and then try to hone that in and see what really matters. And the Brandon Clark injury, not Brandon Clark, but the Clark injury Jalen Clark injury for UCLA, it may be more of a deciding factor than anything else statistical when it comes down between UCLA and Purdue, because they do care and factor in injury. Way back when we saw that with University of Cincinnati. I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to remember Kenyon Martin.
Oh yeah, I know who that is. He was a beast.
Yeah. Kenyon Martin.
These kids don't know who Kenyon Martin is.
I watched him in the NBA.
Kenyon Martin's son is now playing college ball.
He's in the NBA.
But he's in the
NBA, yeah.
Oh, he's in the NBA. Yeah, you're right.
He's on the Rockets.
He got hurt right before the tournament one year, and they went from a 1 seed to, I want to say, a 3 or a 4. It was a significant drop then. So I think that Clark injury is gonna matter.
Yeah, Kenyon Martin played with my guy at Cincinnati, right? He played with Jamal Davis, correct? Or am I?
Who's Jamal Davis?
See, I was telling Aiden about Jamal Davis. So there's a kid. I live in Crown Point, Indiana, and there's this kid on Crown Point that's going to Bellarmine named AJ Lux. AJ Lux's dad was TJ Lux, who was one of the best big men in the state, and he took Northern Illinois to a Sweet 16 once upon a time, and he played for the Maryville Pirates in high school, and his teammate was Jamal Davis, and they were awesome. They went to state twice and lost, and I cried like a little baby because I was a little kid back then, and it was all my hopes and dreams. But Jamal Davis went to Cincinnati and played with him. So that's my connection.
Well,
there.
I had to throw my brother's Go Bearcats up there because my brother went to University of Cincinnati, and I went and saw Nick Van Exel and Kenyon Martin and all those guys play live. So, back in the day.
All right. So, Corey says he just purchased 31 acres in Pennsylvania. Come visit. And then he was saying that to somebody else, and he said only if one of these guys explains why one of our guards run under the basket. Can anybody answer this for him so we can go visit him in Pennsylvania?
It's on free throws that he was asking about it in the show before. He was saying,
I don't know. I saw it the show before, but I didn't know what it was. I don't know about
on the inbounds, or what is he? I I guess I don't have enough context.
We are all going to Corey's house is all I know. We gotta get this.
Yeah, we can do that. If I get a little context, maybe I can answer.
All that acreage, a lot of room for activity. All right, so go ahead. What are you saying?
I was just gonna ramble, but like, if they're if we're going offense, it's just he's just trying to get the ball quicker.
No, I think he was. I thought he was talking about on a shot free throw, like when a guy's attempted.
Corey's saying every free throw, one of our guards run under the hoop. Brandon Newman got a rebound from this last game.
Yeah.
Right?
Guards a lot of times kind of run that little loop and wrap around.
Right. Instead of fighting through the big, just go around them.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah.
So now we're
put yourself in position. I don't know. I don't know if it's something the staff has them do intentionally. I'm sure it is, to help them rebound. I mean, I think that's a good observation. I'll be looking out for that.
Newman got a rebound in the last game from doing exactly that. I know
because they put Braden in specific spots. Like he's taught to, especially with how feisty he is. I forget if he said it or I wish I could cite the source, but like he put on the 15-foot mark on a lot of rebounds in general, or like 10-foot, just because that's where the bounces go, and usually his guys the nail, one getting back. Yeah, and so maybe I would assume it's probably something on purpose and just trying to get boards.
Corey saying, never seen it done in my life until this season. Morton does it every single time. Every time. I've seen players do this long before Purdue. I don't know, maybe not as much as Corey's saying necessarily. I guess I don't know if I'm paying attention to it as close as Corey, but certainly not something Purdue's invented. It's just another way of getting to the rim and trying to get a rebound, especially if you have a mismatch standing next to you. You got to work the angles. So that would be our answer. So now we're all coming to Pennsylvania, Corey. So get ready. So that's it. We're wrapping things up. As Willie Dean said during Rapheal Davis's interview, I never want to take up anyone's time, but then I certainly find a way to at least keep them on for 30 minutes and that's the minimum. So but we appreciate all our guests, Rapheal Davis, and
you gotta show that other Willie Dean comment about his lineup suggestion.
Okay, yeah, that was the next one I'm gonna pull up. So here's a lineup to consider. Edey, Trey Kaufman-Wren, Caleb First, Mason Gillis, Brandon Newman.
35 turnovers a game.
Are we getting the ball across half court? Like actually?
Aiden, your thoughts? What would happen?
I don't even want to think about that at all.
Brandon dropping 40 on that lineup. Come on now.
Could you imagine? You talk about a team with no handle. My goodness.
Who do you trust, real quick? Who do you trust most bringing the ball up in that lineup?
Mason Gillis.
Probably Gillis. Yeah.
Probably Gillis. Yeah.
Maybe Edey.
Gillis would just punch his way across half court. So, a couple combine questions real quick. Braggs, any Boilers looking good at the combine? I was there last week for CHGO. Anybody that follows my Twitter saw a lot of that, or my Facebook, promoting a lot of the work I was doing with CHGO Bears, covering the Chicago Bears at the NFL Combine. It was a great opportunity for what I'm trying to do personally. And, we don't go and watch the workouts. The media is there to interview the players and to talk to them and do podcasts and do the media row stuff. And while that's going on, the workouts are going on at Lucas Oil. We're at the convention center. Now we can go over there. We have a pretty far seat. It's not like we're allowed on the field to watch these workouts, but most of the workouts are shown on TV. So anything you're seeing, you honestly get a better vantage point from home than anything I could do if I had gone to Lucas Oil. Now, did I talk to any of the Purdue Boilermakers? I didn't get a chance to talk to the wide receiver, Charlie Jones. I know there's a lot of Bears fans or a few Bears fans that are very high on him. I'm certainly not sleeping on Charlie Jones. I was a guy beating the table the last 2 years for Rondale Moore and David Bell to get on the Bears because we need all the wide receiver help we can get. And if Charlie Jones is going to go in the third or fourth round, that's somebody that the Bears certainly should be looking at. And I know for the people that did interview him, he made a good impression. Now, Aiden O'Connell and Payne Durham, I didn't talk to Aiden. I did talk to Payne Durham, but my head's spinning exactly what he had to say. But I know he's on the Chicago Bears radar. and he's on a lot of teams' radar. Payne Durham. This is a very tight end heavy class. There's a lot of really good tight ends, and he's right in the thick of that. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. But I'd love for Payne Durham to be on the Chicago Bears. So we'll have to see. I don't know if you were asking for that as a Bears specific question. You're probably a Colts fan. Nobody's perfect, but
I'm going to catch so much heck about Payne Durham when he gets drafted, because I got this take early in the season. I put on Twitter that he wasn't quick enough to make it in the NFL. And this guy has it bookmarked, and every single time that they show his draft projection, like, he retweets at me every time. So I'm just waiting for draft day.
No, he can play. He had a huge Senior Bowl. I thought he did really well at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile, Alabama. I'm not really sure how he tested at the combine, but
sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes.
And I am never wrong. I'm never wrong. Corey Lesney, hey, Braggs, thanks for taking Chase Claypool. You know what, Corey? If you want to start something, we can go on your 32 acres of Pennsylvania, beautiful sunshine, and settle this real quick if we're going to start taking shots at the freaking Bears. Okay. And Willie Dean saying he is a Bears fan. So, you know what? Don't you worry about Chase Claypool. He's going to be just fine next year with the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields. We're going to add another wide receiver. Just you wait, Corey. This isn't a Bears podcast. Tune into the CHGO Bears podcast for all my, meatball Bears takes for there. We can save them for there. Save you guys the the punishment. Jeannie Miller says, I'm glad I found this page. I like watching the videos and listening and reading the comments. It's good info, and love when you guys have past and present players on. Going to try to work a pretty special guest for next Tuesday. Haven't talked to these guys about it yet, but certainly I have one in mind that we've talked to over the last couple weeks. So we'll have to wait and see if we can get him on the show. So stay tuned for that. But like I said before, we have a bunch of shows planned for the rest of this week. Some will just be with Joe and Aiden. Some will be with all of us doing the post-game show, obviously Friday at some point after the game. It probably will not be immediately following the game. No JB, no more current players. We got Zach Edey as our last current player. We're not going to push it anymore. Let these guys focus on winning Big Ten tournament championship and winning in March and trying to get to a Final Four and a national championship. We're not going to bug those guys anymore, at least on this channel. So, but yeah, we've got a lot of fun shows planned, post-game shows, bracket show on Sunday, recap shows, everything in between. So stay tuned to this channel, and we should find out what Purdue's going to do here soon enough. I'm excited to see what they can do here on Friday. So that wraps things up. That's about as fast as the wrap of I'm ever going to say.
Wait,
thank you again. Yeah, I'm done. I want to thank our sponsors, FanBags. Make sure you visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off your entire order. They do some really great work. Go ahead and check them out. And then, of course, Mad Mushroom Pizza. Use the coupon code BITS for 15% off any order you make for the best pizza in the game and the best cheese sticks in the game. And once again, thank you to Bobby Buckets Riddell and Rapheal Davis for coming on here tonight and giving all their wisdom. So that's it. 2-hour mark is hit. Enjoy your week. Big Ten tournament coming up. A lot of great action coming up. We'll see you here real soon. And always boiler up.